Krishna. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamunatira Chadi. Jamunatira Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamunatira Manachadi. Jamunatira Manachadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jayo Vishnupat Paramahamsat Harividakacharya Astatarasata C.C. Maharaj Divine Grace C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Pimanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Let's chant together text number 5, Canto 8, chapter 21, text number 5. Brahmadayo Lokanatha Swanathaya Samadritaha Sanugabalim Ajahru Samshiptatma Vibhutaye Brahmadayo Lokanatha Swanathaya Samadrita Sanugabalim Ajahru
Samshiptatma Vibhutaye Brahmadayo Lokanatha Swanathaya Samadrutaha Sanugabalimajarahu Sansikshapma Vibhutaye Brahmadayo Lokanatha Swanathaya Samadrutaha Sanugabalimajrahu Sanshiptatma Vibhutaye
Samshiptatma Vibhutaye Brahmadayo Lokanatha Swanathaya Samadrita Sanugabalim Ajahru Samshiptatma Vibhutaye.
Translation: Lord Brahma and all the predominating deities of the various planetary systems began to worship Lord Vamanadeva, their supreme master, who had reduced himself from his all-pervading form to his original form. They collected all the ingredients and paraphernalia for this worship. And we'll come back to read the purport later. Let's go back to the first several verses with no purport, starting with text 1. 8:21:1. Shukadeva Goswami continued, when Lord Brahma, who was born of a lotus flower, saw that the effulgence of his residence, Brahmaloka, had been reduced by the glaring effulgence from the toenails of Lord Vamanadeva, he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma was accompanied by all the great sages, headed by Marichi, and by yogis like Sanandana. But in the presence of that glaring effulgence, O King, even Lord Brahma and his associates seemed insignificant. Text 2 and 3. Among the great personalities who came to worship the lotus feet of the Lord were those who had attained perfection in self-control and regulative principles, as well as experts in logic, history, general education, and the Vedic literature known as kalpa, brackets says, dealing with old historical incidents, kalpa. Others were expert in the Vedic corollaries like Brahma Samhita and all the other knowledge of the Vedas, parentheses, Samayajur, Riga, and Atharva, and also all the supplementary Vedic knowledge, parentheses, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, etc. Others were those who had been freed of the reactions of fruitive activities by transcendental knowledge awakened by practice of yoga, and still others were those who had attained residence in Brahmaloka, not by ordinary karma, but by advanced Vedic knowledge. After devotedly worshipping the upraised lotus feet of the Supreme Lord with oblations of water, Lord Brahma, who was born of the lotus, emanating from Lord Vishnu's navel, offered prayers to the Lord. Oh, controller of the sound.
There's a problem with the sound system.
Yeah, there is a problem, I can tell. Text 4. O King. This is Shukadev Tamar's fiction. The water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev, who is known as Urukrama, the wonderful actor. Thus, that water became so pure that it was transformed into the water of the Ganges, which went flowing down from the sky, purifying the three worlds like the pure fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead purport. Here we understand that the Ganges began when the water from Lord Brahma's Kamandalu washed the lotus feet of Lord Vamanadev. But in the 5th canto, it is stated that the Ganges began when Vamanadev's left foot pierced the covering of the universe so that the transcendental water of the causal ocean leaked through. And elsewhere, it is also stated that Lord Narayana appeared as the water of the Ganges. The water of the Ganges, therefore, is a combination of 3 transcendental waters, and thus the Ganges is able to purify the 3 worlds. This is the description given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And again, verse 5, which we chanted, Lord Brahma and all the predominating deities of the various planetary systems began to worship Lord Vamanadev, their superior, their supreme master, who had reduced himself from his all-pervading form to his original form. They collected all the ingredients and paraphernalia for this worship purport. Vamanadev first expanded himself to the universal form and then reduced himself to the original Vamana Rupa. Thus, he acted exactly like Lord Krishna, who, at the request of Arjuna, first showed his universal form and later resumed his original form as Krishna. The Lord can assume any form he likes, but his original form is that of Krishna. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. According to the capacity of the devotee, the Lord assumed various forms so that the devotee can handle him. This is his causeless mercy. When Lord Vamanadev resumed his original form, Lord Brahma and his associates collected various paraphernalia for worship with which to please him. Several points. One prominent point is it takes an acharya like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to resolve apparent contradictions with this scriptural reference, that scriptural reference, and another scriptural reference. And if we don't hear from our great acharyas, what are we going to do? We'll become qualified and continue researching and continue researching, continue researching. Here's two examples. One is right here. There's three different descriptions. The water from Brahma's Kamandalu, the water that came from the causal ocean when the left foot of Vamana pierced the coverings of the universe and entered the universe, Canto 5, Bhagavatam. And another is Narayana became the waters of the Ganges. I don't know, didn't give what that scriptural reference is, but somewhere. So, what to do? In this particular case, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says all three are correct, and the water of the Ganges is all three. However, sometimes those different statements found in different scriptures have a different resolution. And it certainly can be that other acharyas besides Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have their realization about how this and that scripture reference can be resolved. Here's one example in relation to Ramachandra's appearance. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur resolves two different descriptions of who are the four brothers. One references from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, and the other is from Padma Purana. One says the four brothers are Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, respectively. Ram, Lakshman, Bharata, and Shatrughna. In the Padma Purana, it says different. Lord Ramachandra is Narayana. Lakshman is Sankarshana, and the other two brothers are Pradyumna and Aniruddha, Bharata and Shatrughna. So how do you resolve that one? He resolves it in a different way by writing their different days of Brahma, Kalpa Beda, understanding. On his authority, we have that understanding. So if in case we wanted to know, it's good to have access to great acharyas. And second, is it possible that this acharya and that acharya would have a different understanding of how to reconcile apparent contradictions? Absolutely possible. And then we're left scratching our head saying, well, if it's this, it can't be that. If it's that, it can't be this. And someone comes along that says, not this excludes that, they can be both right at the same time, although they appear to be mutually exclusive. Now, you have to be a transcendentalist to not go into that, if it's this, it can't be that. The transcendentalist, there's a nice explanation. I'll give 2 examples. There's a nice explanation in Sri Brahma Samhita with a similar reference, and I can't remember where the other reference comes from, that says, according to one's faith, one may get realization. So in Sri Brahma Samhita, there's this nice phrase that says, Yatha Shraddha, how's it go? Siddhi Bhavati Tadrashi. Yatha Shraddha, there's another phrase. Siddhi Bhavati Tadrashi. The other phrase means awakens. Can someone look it up in their Veda base? Yeah, Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita. Yatha Shraddha, Yatha something Shraddha, Siddhi Bhavati Tadrashi. So, the Bhaktisiddhanta's word-for-word translation is for Bhaktisiddhanta's translation, he translates the word Shraddha not simply as faith, but as translation, as realization. So, according to one's realization, siddhi is the word that he translates as realization. According to one's faith, Krishna reciprocates. According to one's faith, Krishna reciprocates. With a transcendentalist, you can have pure faith that differs from another that has pure faith, differs from another that has pure faith, and the Supreme Lord then reciprocates, corresponding to the faith. Not only realization, but anything. What form of the Lord will be shown to one, the same Lord may show another form, although the object is the same Lord. Can you find the verse? Oh, okay. Anyway, it's a principle. It's stated elsewhere. I'll do a little more homework before the discussion. I'll send the results of this little part that I'm having a mental memory lapse. I'll send it to Premadhatri, the 2 references that say these things. So the principle, aside from the scriptural reference, the principle is different acharyas can have different realizations, and it's not that if this one's right, then that one's wrong. And if that one's right, then this one's wrong. They can both be right.
Is it Shriram Yata Dedi?
I can't hear you through your mask. Say it again.
Shriram Yata Dedi. Shriram Yata Dedi. It's sloka. Not that one?
No. I'll find it, and you don't have to keep searching. I'll find it and send it to you. In Bhagavad Gita commentary, in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that's read diametrically opposite by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhusan. And again, I can't remember the reference specifically, but it's where the armies were assembled, and the Sanskrit word is read in two different ways. One is, it was sufficient to defeat the other side, and the other was insufficient to defeat the other side. Diametrically opposite, same word. So it's a classic of, and Baladev was a disciple of Vishwanath. So how can a disciple differ from his Diksha Shiksha Guru? And the answer is, according to faith, he has different realizations, which is just fine. It's not offense. It's not rebellion against. It's not, I'm smarter than you, so there. It's just a different realization. That's not the attitude of Baladev. And it's not a flaw on Baladev's part. It's just a different realization that's explicitly within his commentary on that verse from Bhagavad Gita. And it's just fine. Now, for most of us, that's kind of uncomfortable. If it's this, it's this. If it's that, it's that. But how can be either this or that, and they're both right? So start getting comfortable, because that's just spiritual reality. Here is the verse. Yadrashi yadrashi shadha siddhi bhavati tadrashi. There it is. Yadrashi yadrashi shadha siddhi bhavati tadrashi. That's the sloka. Yadrashi yadrashi, then tadrashi. Whereas this, so that. Yadrashi yadrashi shadha siddhi bhavati tadrashi. And there's another verse from another scripture, my memory says, Padma Purana, that says essentially the same thing. The Sanskrit is different, but it says essentially the same thing. Siddhi bhavati. Realization arises corresponding to faith, because where does the realization come from? It comes from the Supreme Lord. Super Soul gives the inspiration to those that have Shraddha, or those are qualified. Realization is given. And the rule is, it must conform with Shastra. So if the Shastric rules, including Vyakarana and grammar and so forth and so on, are in alignment with the realization, then the realization can be accepted, although it may differ from another great Acharya's realizations. I'm dwelling on this point because it's right here in our verse and purport. Different narrations. Now it could be that another Acharya could come along and say, it's a different Deya Brahma, Kalpa Beta. In this Kalpa, it's this, and that Kalpa, it's that. That could be another. I don't know if there is another one that says that. One could research it and see if there's other. Prabhupada chose to refer to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of why it says this here, and right in the same Bhagavatam, and that there. It's not so completely dissimilar from different descriptions of the universal form. In some places it's described this way, in some places it's described that way. Right within the same Bhagavatam, not only Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. Canto 2, Chapter 1, and Canto 8, the previous chapter. Different descriptions. vividly different description, the same entity seen or in being described differently. It's quite okay. It's quite okay. So what do? We're kind of neophyte persons trying to understand Krishna, trying to understand the Bhagavatam, which reveals Krishna. We have to follow our great acharyas to help us understand the message, because otherwise how are we going to properly understand the message? Now, fortunately for us, we have our founder acharya, who we have complete, absolute trust in. And at the same time, a more mature stage is not just we can trust in what Prabhupada says, and, not but another disciplic succession qualified person may describe something slightly differently. And it's okay. Not like Prabhupada said, and therefore that's it. Prabhupada said, and that's it. But there may be others that have a different realization according to their faith. So this is a kind of higher level of discerning what to accept. It's how to accept. Then when you have the how to, you align that with the what. And then you can accept or not accept. But the intelligence requires faith, and it requires the process of disciplic succession and following Vedic rules of discerning Shastra. I hope it's clear. Then the verse that we chanted together, this nice description is being compared to Bhagavad Gita. First the Vamana form, then the universal form, and then the Vamana form. And then the principle is the Lord can manifest whatever form He likes. And as He likes, He can, and then withdraw that form. It's not too different. It's different, but not too different from what Krishna did with Lord Brahma and manifesting all the calves and cowherd boys, when they were the exact form of them were in the cave. And there was a purpose. For 1 year, He manifested Himself as identical featured calves and cowherd boys, so that the cows could have the experience of having the calf, who was Krishna, as their child. And the mothers and the fathers in Vraja could have the experience of having Krishna as their son. Although he looked exactly like their son, they couldn't tell the difference. What mothers don't know what their son looks like. And not only their looks like, but all of his voice and mannerisms and idiosyncrasies, and they didn't know the difference. Not only they didn't know the difference, Balaram didn't know the difference. Balaram, omniscient Balaram. And the reason for all of that is the internal potency or Yogamaya potency of the Lord covered them, particularly covered Balaram. And then towards the end of the year, the Krishna withdrew slightly the Yogamaya potency, and Balaram started to figure it out. Wait a minute. 2 + 2 = 4. The affection that the parents feel for their son is just like the affection they feel for Krishna. And the affection they feel for Krishna normally is even greater than the affection for their own son. But now it's equal. So, Krishna manifested Himself in identical features as the son. And then Krishna withdrew those features, and the cowherd boys were brought from the cave, and so forth. So back to the principle. For his purpose, the unlimited, inconceivable, all-powerful Supreme can manifest whatever he likes. And he doesn't derive the power to do that from anyone. There's a passage from Ramayana where Ravana has done all these austerities and the universe is being traumatized by the intensity of his austerities. Brahma comes, what would you like? I like immortality. No way. What about, I can't be killed this way, that way, the other 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 way. He left out humans and animals, feeling himself so superior he doesn't have to ask for that. So Brahma gave him 3 boons. He said yes to what you want. I can't give you immortality, but I can give you what you want. And in addition, I'll give you the potency by which, at will, you can transform your form into any form you like. Now, the ability to do that came from Krishna, because it came from Brahma, and the ability that Brahma has, the capacity to give benedictions, comes from the Supreme Lord. So, Brahma is dependent, Ravana is dependent, and Krishna is independent. That which others may do, they're dependent. And that which Krishna does, he's independent. And if he withdraws the ability to do something, then that somebody can't do that something anymore. One more Bhagavatam narration just to express the same point. Really nice Bhagavatam description. It's the chapter in the Bhagavatam where a Brahmana has sons that die they don't die. They just disappear after they're born. They disappear, they disappear, they disappear. They disappear. So the Brahmana goes to Ugrasena and lodges a complaint. What kind of king are you? How can something like this happen to a Brahmana? It must be there's some sin or discrepancy in the part of the king that then goes down to the citizens. You're an unqualified king. Ran. So, Arjuna happened to be present during one of those incidents because, from one child to the next child, it's just a span over something like a year. So, 8 times over 8 years, the same thing happened. Arjuna happened to be there the 8th time. Arjuna heard the complaint, and Arjuna said to the Brahmana, I have the capacity to protect you. So trust me. And if I fail to protect you for your child number 9, then I'll enter into fire. Take this vow. So the Brahmana went along, and the 9th child just disappeared. And he went and complained to Arjuna, you lied. Because what was supposed to happen was, Arjuna, when there was delivery, he came with arrows and made a protective shield all around in all directions of the Brahmana, and still, when the child was born, it disappeared. So Arjuna searched throughout the land in all directions and couldn't find the child. So they went to the Brahman and said, I'm going to keep my vow, I'm going to enter into fire. And as he was prepared to enter into fire, Krishna said, I know where the children are. Please don't enter into the fire. And let's go find the 9 children. So they got his chariot and Krishna's chariot, and the chariot went through the upper regions of the universe, through the layers of the universe, into the Brahmajyoti, into the realm where Mahavishnu resides. And there's this fantastic description of the abode of Mahavishnu. It surpasses the opulence of even Dwarka, apparently. It certainly surpasses the opulence of the heaven. So they come before, the detailed description, they come before Mahavishnu, and Krishna makes the request, 9 children, please. And Mahavishnu said, I personally stole because I wanted to have your darshan. Then there's this whole discussion about if he can come to Dwarka to steal the sons, why he can't see Krishna? This is Vishwanath. Because even the betel nut seller and the regular shop owners, they can see Krishna every day. So why is it that Mahavishnu couldn't see Krishna right there in Dwarka? It's a long, very elaborate Vishwanath Chakravarti-esque commentary, and it concludes, that was Krishna's arrangement. So that Arjuna could see the unlimitedness of Krishna's expansion, and Krishna's expansion is subordinate to Krishna, which leads into a whole other long explanation that Vishnu is subordinate to Krishna. And that's a whole other philosophical topic. Is Krishna the expansion of Vishnu, or is Vishnu the expansion of Krishna? Because there are apparent scriptural references that say this and that say that. So which is it? It's right in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is discussed by Krishnadas Kaviraj. The reason I'm going through all this is Arjuna comes to the realization that any power that I have is dependent upon Krishna. Any power that Mahavishnu has is dependent upon Krishna. He's the source of all power. He's the only independent, and even Mahavishnu is dependent on the power of Krishna. To do anything to exist and do anything, it's dependent upon Krishna. He's the Karanam, the cause of all causes, which is what we're supposed to be getting out of this. Back to the purport for this morning's verse. Vamana showed this form, Vamana showed the universal form, Vamana withdrew the universal form, he showed his original form, and now we can't, Prabhupada writes, you can't worship universal form. So he assumed the Vamana form so that Brahma and all of his associates, etc., 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 could gather the paraphernalia and worship the Vamana form of the Lord, understanding that he's their worshipable Lord. Now, Brahma is understanding certainly that Krishna is the source. In Brahma Samhita, Krishna is the source. But that which comes from the source is also worshipable. The incarnations, all the avatars, are likewise worshipable. And so we worship Rama and Nrsimha and Vamana and all the other forms because they're worshipable. as worshipable as Krishna, while at the same time recognizing Krishna as the source. The Srimad Bhagavatam is so beautiful. The composition of Vyasa to teach what he was instructed to do by Narada Muni. And he did it. It's so beautiful. Thus, therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam. Very wonderful literature. Let's see if there's some discussion. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, that Kalpa Bheda mean, when I was in college.
When you were where?
In college, Balmiki Vidyapit, in Sanskrit college.
Okay.
And one of the teacher told me that it's only Vyasadeva is the one of the post, but different Vyasa is come over there. That's the reason is Vishnu Purana and other Puranas, it's same thing is described in different way. Because of the Vyasa is different.
Because
of the Vyasadeva is different.
That's an interesting take. I've never heard that one. Because my understanding is different. It doesn't mean I'm right. If I'm right, then he's wrong, and if he's right, then I'm wrong. My understanding is the Vedas that we have are Vyasadev's composition. He wrote them down. While they're different Vyasadevs, yes. The literature that we have is Vyasadev's compiling. And there's differences. There's similarities because the histories are the same, and there's differences for different reasons. Some details here that aren't there, some details there that aren't over the other place, or different days of Brahma, different explanations of why there's, between this Purana and that Purana, some differences, at the same time similarities. Now, this understanding that you just described, I never heard it before.
Okay.
And I would ask the teacher, may I hear the Shastra Praman for that, please?
Yeah, that I didn't did, but
I'm just asking. If these days when I hear something, my conclusion is, if it didn't come in Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports, then it can't be right, or I won't accept it. I just want to know what the Shastra Praman is. Behind you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The question is like, when Lord Brahma recited Brahma Samhita, like, do we have like context, like when he recited Brahma Samhita?
My memory is poor. I'm scanning my memory to see if I've read anything that's responsive to your question. When? Sensibly, it's after his mature realization. But then comes two other questions. Did he write it down, or did he just vibrate it? So besides when, how did it become a written form? Who compiled it in a written form? Who and when? So it's more than one question. But when did he speak it, or when was it become a samhita? It's a good question. I'll see if I can find some scholarly folks that have the answer to that. Because I can't recall reading anything or any description. As dear as Sri Brahma Samhita is to me, I don't know the answer. When? And then the next one is from the sound to the written. I guess you could say, does Sri Brahma Samhita fit into the pantheon of the compositions of Vyasa? Or something else? How did it go from the sound to a written form? What were the circumstances? It's a nice question, I like. Anyone else? Okay. Yes, you have something. Here comes the microphone. Carry it. Go carry it over to her.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, you got another one. Okay. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So you mentioned that we have to get comfortable with this differences in scriptures, and it was also very apparent. So when we do a study on scripture, it makes us understand these differences much easily. But when we are trying to talk to somebody, the urge to argue and prove a point takes over so quickly before we even try to catch it. So do you have any tips on how to do that?
Maturity. And maturity takes time. The important thing for maturity is the root is strong. So then you go to the root. What's the root? Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartana Vritti. So those first four stages come as, they're steps to get to the maturity. Then comes Nishtha. So Nishtha doesn't mean perfect, but it just means steady. So I may not know everything about everything. I may not be a walking encyclopedia, like Bhaktisiddhanta was like a walking encyclopedia. But so I may not be there, but I can have firm faith. That's the mature position. And to get to the mature position is, substantial hearing with faith. The Bhajana Kriya with faith. Adav Shraddha. And then Sadhu Sangha. So make your selection of the sadhus with whom you associate as far as possible in the stage of those who are mature. And we don't reject those that are not yet mature. There may be persons who are speaking that don't have mature stage of realization. We don't dismiss that person or stay away from that person or become allergic to that person. We just recognize they're at a certain stage and we respect that. And there must and should, ideally, you have persons in your life that have that mature capacity. And they're principal persons that you regularly hear from. So that you can become like them by their mature, through the medium of their maturity, I may also become mature. And then not dump something into the garbage can when it should be respected.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Another way is another word than maturity is purity. Quite similar. The connotation is different, but quite similar. A mature Vaishnava is a pure Vaishnava. A pure Vaishnava is a mature Vaishnava. It's just different adjectives describing a state of spiritual elevation. It takes a while to get there, to take, from a seed to become that which produces more seeds. You have the microphone. You were going to say something else? Okay. Fly. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. can you arrange some Mahaprasadam for me from the temple? Not right now, for the evening, before this evening. This evening program. During the day, gather some Mahaprasadam that I can distribute tonight. You understand?
We have some.
You have some. Okay. Well, you can get some more. Some service. This young man likes service.
Ask him to make some. आपने बनाया? मैं बोला था प्रसाद बनाने को.
Where the cover go?
It must be in the bag.
Oh, here it is. What?
Shaligram, she wants you to.
Huh?
She's been given a shaligram. She wants you
Yeah, because I gave it to him, but just keep it because I think I'm not qualified. But then Prabhu gave me more.